Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you kindly for stopping by. Obviously, the city is very excited at the moment about President Obama's visit, and in homage to that visit, do have a look at the Mindspeak session I did with Bob Godek, the U.S. ambassador. Have a look at what he said. Have a look at the Q&A session. That's another link. And have a look at the very short interview I did with him after the event, where he shared his thoughts as well. Home thoughts. This particular puppy, well, helicopter, I don't know what you call it, it's Osprey, I think, flew just outside my window, practically at eye level, yesterday. I'll put up that photograph. And I like this photograph from Buzz Aldrin. I have 3 words to describe why this photo Neil took of me is so iconic. Location, location, location. Apollo 11. In homage of E.L. Doctorow passing away, I've got a few choice words of his. Writing is like driving at night in the fog. You can only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole trip that way. I am telling you what I know. Words have music, and if you are a musician, you will write to hear them. I'm often asked the question, how can the masses permit themselves to be exploited by the few? The answer is by being persuaded to identify with them. I think that's quite powerful, don't you? Someone dying asks if there is life after death. Yes, comes the answer, only not yours. Finally, the one I liked best, I remember holding her in my arms and absolving God of all meaninglessness. I like this photograph, gorgeous sunset photo taken from the inside of a wave. Don't ask me how they did it. Political reflections. I remember this quote from President Obama as he sought to win office in 2008, and I think he wrote this in his book. I serve as a blank screen which people of vastly different political stripes project their own views, he said. I'm a big admirer of President Obama's point of fact. And then I went to this comment from Zbigniew Brzezinski. In the technotronic society, the trend would seem to be towards the aggregation of the individual support of millions of uncoordinated citizens, easily within the reach of magnetic and attractive personalities, exploiting the latest communications techniques to manipulate emotions and control reason. Paddy Ashdown makes a powerful statement in The Independent today. He says, we see a problem in the world and our first instinct is to bomb it. We have become obsessed with high explosives as an instrument for peace. I'm going to put it better myself. And then I found this interview by Journeyman, the last interview of Muammar Gaddafi just before the Libyan revolution. Currency markets, euro is at 109.44. It pulled up from a low set on Monday of 108.08, but I think it's a short covering rally. Dollar index 97.34 area, having fallen back from a 3-month high of 98.151 set on Tuesday. Japanese yen 123.72, Swissy 0.9581 pound. Was at 155.61 when I walked in, and we're now trading at 156 the figure. Aussie is at 0.7407, Indian rupee 63.615, South Korean won 11.5332, Rial 3.1759, Egyptian pound steadying 783.01. South African rand 12.3621. Just to talk about the African currencies, which have had a very, very tough time. There's some signs of stability returning. Zambian kwacha on the bounce, Ghana cedi similarly, and the shilling seems to have stabilized a little bit. I'll put up a 3-month chart of the dollar index, and I still maintain we're in a strong dollar story. The dollar rally is very much intact, and we'll go to 100 and then 110 after that. Euro dollar 109.45, short covering in my view will peter out imminently, and I think we go back to revisit 104 plus, which was the low from this year, and then through to parity. Holger tweets, Eurozone makes money with Greece's crisis. ESM sold 1.9 billion euros of 6-month bills at negative 0.169%. Means investors pay ECN. Very true. Apple Inc., after posting its best fiscal third quarter profit ever, is facing fresh questions over whether it can keep making hit products. Have a look at the price action in 3 minutes. Nanex LLC tweeted it. Here's Apple losing $69 billion in market cap in just under 3 minutes. Even though iPhone sales climbed 35% to 47.5 million units in the period that ended in June, the result fell short of the 48.8 million shipments projected by analysts. That, plus a revenue forecast for the current period that missed estimates, triggered the steepest post-earnings drop in Apple's share since January 2013, when CEO Tim Cook was under scrutiny over his ability to keep up Apple's pace of innovation and sales growth. Cook has succeeded in introducing an entirely new category with the Apple Watch. Sales remain modest, indicating that Apple will have to keep relying on the iPhone to fuel growth. The company probably shipped at least 1.9 million smartwatches since it debuted in April, short of the 3 to 5 million projected by analysts. Investors are asking how much earnings upside is left in the next year. Apple shares tumbled as much as 8.8% in extended trading. Stock declined 1% at the close when it was still up 18%. Here's Apple losing $69 billion in market cap in just 3 minutes. Have a look at that. Commodity markets, raw materials have tumbled almost 9% since mid-May, sending the Bloomberg index to a 13-year low on Wednesday. Crude oil obviously is crucial for Canada and Norway, has slumped 16% in the period, as has Australia's biggest export earner, that being iron ore. New Zealand's mainstay dairy has dropped more than 20%. The average number of days with temperatures higher than 95 degrees Fahrenheit may double or even triple by the end of the century. This is the latest report on global warming. Earth warmed to a record in the first half of the year, putting new pressure on nations from the US to China to try to curb climate change at a United States summit in Paris this December. Global land and sea surface temperatures from January through June were 1.53 degrees Fahrenheit above the 20th century average, the highest since recording started in 1880. Then I learned, and this is interesting, spirit sold for $50 or more, which is an $18 billion market, is growing at more than twice the pace of lower-priced alcohol. That's interesting, isn't it? Commodity markets, gold, let me put up a 1-month chart. We're now around the 1094 level. I expect a triple-digit print this year. Bearish, I've been bearish for a very long time. Crude oil, just above $50 on the contract I'm watching. My target is now $44 and then even below, in point of fact. Very interesting article written by Rafael Marquez, who is the sort of President Dos Santos' citizen and adversary. A cry from the heart, open letter to Angola's president. He is a crusading investigative journalist, long been a thorn in the side of President Dos Santos. In this open letter, Marquez explains why he does what he does and what the president can do to start redeeming himself. President Jose Eduardo dos Santos, since we are unlikely to meet, I have decided to attempt a conversation with you by this medium. I hope you respond to me. It is time to talk. Although I'm sharply critical of how you govern and the suffering this causes the majority of the Angolan people, I admire you for staying in power so stoically, and I understand very well your anxiety when faced with the prospect of losing power. Father Antonio Vieira wrote, Pulvis est tu in pulverem reveretis. Dust you are, and to dust you shall return. You are dust, that is the present. To dust you shall return, that is the future. That is the future that you are trying to avoid at any cost, and which results in the anxiety that I mentioned. For a while during my childhood, you cultivated a fear of yourself. In those days I knew you when you, Mr. President, had scheduled an outing from your official residence at the beach resort of Futungo de Belas. On these occasions, around midnight or later, I would feel the house trembling, and my mother, in alarm, would come to take me from my bedroom into the yard. The Presidential Guard moved a Soviet tank, could have been a T-54 or T-55, on a tank transporter to Rua de Liberdade, Freedom Street, where my mother lives to this day. This monstrosity would then maneuver to position itself in the short, narrow lane alongside the wall of two of the rooms of the house. The structure was extremely fragile and the bricks corroded by salt. As the house is by the Samba beach, if the tank's maneuver had been just a few centimeters off target, it would have been goodbye forever to my family. The President's outing from the palace forced us to sleep in the yard until the tank was taken away. My childhood was marked by the steel pachyderm, which, with a slight gesture, could have destroyed our house and family, even if it had not intended to. I didn't like you because of the way our lives were put at risk every time you left your palace. I would pray that you would not have to go out. I was a churchgoer, sir. In 1992, I had the privilege to go for the first time to your birthday party at Futungo de Belas. I had high expectations. I would rub shoulders with the leaders of my country. When you left the party, I saw a minister giving instructions for an arrangement of lobsters to be taken to his car, a general purloining an expensive bottle of whiskey, the country's rulers and their hangers-on looting the leftovers of the banquet. At the time, I saw this as an act of generosity on your part, but I left Futungo de Belas with a very bad impression of the people who surrounded you, and who continue to surround you in government. If you could not even resist taking food and drinks from the palace, how then could public assets be entrusted to their care? From that point on, I had no more illusions about you or about your henchmen. I have described these two episodes not to blame you, but as a cry from the heart of someone who, along with millions of Angolan citizens, has had more negative than positive experiences of the way in which you exercise power. I have often been puzzled by the way in which you feel offended or threatened by citizens' everyday expressions of discontent, and have wondered what offence or discontent I should feel in response to what I have suffered at the hands of your regime. I wonder what goes through the heads of millions of my fellow citizens who share my experiences or worse. Only the right to free expression will save us from the danger of bottled-up grievances turned into feelings of hatred, frustration, and vengeance. The respect that you deserve is proportionate to the respect that you have for those whom you rule, and for the common interests that you share with them. As a trained engineer, Mr. President, you will be familiar with Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. In 1999, when you ordered that I be put in jail because you had taken offense at what I had written, calling you a dictator and corrupt, I began to understand you better. You are a powerful but insecure man. I appreciated the gesture of your secretary who visited me to inquire about my state of health and well-being while I was in prison. Despite the horrors that I endured there, that visit left me with at least one more positive memory of my time in detention. The then director of the Viana Penitentiary, Francisco Ningoso, sent a greeting card to my cell, inviting me to a meeting under a tree on the premises. And there we had long conversations. These discussions were interesting. At the same time, I had the privilege of being able to document and report on human rights violations inside the prison. This time, Mr. President, do not send your secretary to inquire about the health of the young activists who are currently in prison. The Attorney General of the Republic, General João Mario de Sousa, took it upon himself as guardian of law and order to announce publicly that the activists were preparing a coup d'etat against you. As a matter of fact, 13 of the protesters were arrested red-handed while reading and discussing a book on non-violent resistance. In arresting them, General João Maria de Sousa destroyed what little credibility his office still had. General João Maria de Sousa is a very bad man. He is not fit to serve you. Discrediting the judicial system does not serve your security. Mr. President, take good note. The judicial system is what will be able to protect you against barbarity if there is ever a regime change. The judicial system is the fine line that separates civilization from savagery. Do not compromise the judicial system. Do not compromise civilization and law. You must have heard the mutterings among your loyal operatives in the intelligence service. They believe that it is counterproductive to use the information that they have gathered on protesters to make such a serious accusation for your own political and judicial purposes. I ask you, Mr. President, to consider my request to order the unconditional release of the following citizens. Very powerful stuff. In return for your statesmanlike gesture in defense of the Constitution, I will offer you my modest thanks, and I will also have the honor to invite you to a vegetarian lunch. I guarantee that I'm a good cook and a good raconteur to keep you entertained over lunch. Powerful stuff. And then I found this tweet, July 19, last week's cover of Expresso from Portugal, José Eduardo dos Santos, the Angolan Sun King. I also found a photograph of Francois Hollande, who visited the Angolan Sun King not too long ago. Have a look at the velvet chairs that they're both sitting in. There was little doubt that Mr. Nkurunziza would win the vote, and that's a fact. And I'll put up a photograph that I found of him voting. The problem I don't think is going to go away. I think Burundi remains on the precipice, and I think, in fact, actually Angola as well. South African all shares actually performed extremely well this year, up 6.29% year to date. Dollar rand 12.3621. I like this photograph. French Rafale fighter jets fly above the pyramids of Giza in Cairo, Egypt. Egyptian pound is at 783.01. Hasn't moved for a while. Egyptian stock market still down 8.64% year to date. Nigerian all shares down 9.88% year to date. Ghana wants to issue a Eurobond of up to $1.5 billion, higher than an originally planned $1 billion. Plus, they've widened the current account. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is up a marginal 1.32% this year. I like this photograph, JP Mika Kiza Nakiza 2014 photo courtesy of the collection of Page Chaudoir, Belgique. It's a fabulous photo. There's an exhibition, Beauté Congo, at the Fondation Cartier in Paris, France. Explores the culture and spirit of the DRC. Brutal black magic in Tanzania's election. This has been a problem there for a while, particularly caught in the crossfire are the albinos. Dr. Manya Onyao doesn't know how he decides which cat's heads he chews off and which he chops off. According to him, the cat killing is the work of spiritual powers that attack him and render him unconscious. But as he ruminated on the matter from a house gifted to him by a re-elected Tanzanian minister who believes witchcraft saved his seat, he said he knows that his bloody spells really pay off. He's here in a big position and a member of parliament, but I can't say his name, claiming doctor-patient privilege as East Africa's perfect cure champion, in the words of his personal website, which features grisly before and after kitten photos. In 2010, Pew Research found that 93% of Tanzanians believed in witchcraft, the highest rate in Africa. Kenya, people feel he's the son of Kenyan soil in some shape or form, so he's tapping into a well of good wishes and positivity. That was me, by President Obama. Journalists already camping out of the airport. Nairobi has received a facelift. Obama's entourage, about 700 people, will include aides, intelligence agents, cooks, and security personnel. Kenya has installed security cameras in central parts of Nairobi, and tens of thousands of police are also due to provide security. The World Bank has given Kenya 51 billion shillings of loans for a road to South Sudan. Nakumatt is in the final stages of acquiring 2 Ugandan stores that belong to the South African retail giant ShopRite. Kenya shilling has firmed up. It's been a little bit more resilient of late, and I'm not sure whether it's some big portfolio flows have come back into Sub-Saharan Africa, because you've seen a bounce pretty much across the board. The Nairobi All Share turned marginally lower yesterday, couldn't maintain its move higher, but it's down 4.039% year to date. NSE 20 fresh 2015 lows, down 9.91% year to date. The equity market is trying to find its footing, but there is a big bifurcation now. Losing stocks are getting crushed. Agricultural sector has been very strong this year. Captoria Tea up 45.985% year to date. Williamson Tea, which was up 4% yesterday, up 57.25% year to date. And Kakuzi up an eye-popping 99.44%. Safaricom has rallied 2.31% over 2 sessions, oversold and ahead of the Equitel launch. I had dinner with Bob last night. He's really not bothered. Uchumi got slammed, down 7.5% to a fresh 2015 low of 740. Everyone's losing faith with this story now. KCB, that was firmer, up 0.9%. That's rallied 2.75% over the last 2 sessions. Co-op Bank up 5% in 2015, behaving very well. Britam slumped another 3.95%. It's down 44.7% now. It's had a torrid time. Trans-Century was high-ticked 8.58%, narrowing its year-to-date decline to 15.5%. Well, I don't know whether I'm going to make it to the office on Friday because, given the President being here and all that, but I do appreciate the fact you stopped by. I am grateful for that. Thank you so much.